Hello and welcome. Thanks so much for joining us for our pre-arrival webinar today featuring housing for undergraduate students. My name is Grace Fuller. I serve as the Manager of International Student Experience and Engagement here at the International Students and Programs Office, commonly referred to as ISPO here at UC San Diego. And I'll turn it over to my colleagues. We can just kind of go down the line here to introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Stacey Travis. I'm the Associate Director for Residential Services and Housing Allocations here with Housing, Dining, and Hospitality at HDH.
Hello, everyone. My name is Camille Kinga, pronouns she, her, hers, and I serve as the Basic Needs Housing and Educations Coordinator over at the UC San Diego Hub Basic Needs Center.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marisa Islas, pronouns she, hers, and I'm the Basic Needs Housing and Education Coordinator at the Hub Basic Needs Center.
All right, and my name's Russell. I'm an alum of UCSD, and I'm the co-founder of Housing for Undergraduate and Graduate Students. So I'll be speaking to you a bit more about finding housing, specifically for students and internationals.
Good morning, my name is Fran. I'm with CORT Furniture, and I am going to discuss how you can furnish your apartments.
All right, thank you so much. So as you can see, we have a number of different partners here today to talk about all things housing, but a little bit of housekeeping before we begin, no pun intended. So you are in listen only mode, so which means you can hear us, but unfortunately we can't hear you. So the main way we'll be interacting together today is via the Q&A feature. So you can submit questions at any time during today's presentation, but we have dedicated time at the end for you to be able to submit questions, and we'll have an open Q&A. And then finally, we are recording. So you'll be able to view this webinar as well as other previous webinar recordings at iwebinars.ucsd.edu. All right, so if you're not familiar, this is a little bit of what that Q&A feature is going to look like. So again, feel free to submit those questions. If for some reason we don't get to your question during today's webinar, you can always reach our office via icontact.ucsd.edu. So this is a little bit about our agenda today, and I'll get us started with some first steps checklist and reminders from ISPO. Okay, so if you have not been to iNewStudent.ucsd.edu, this is a great resource for our new international students who have just been admitted and accepted their admission to UC San Diego. So here you can find important information about requesting your immigration documents and preparing for your arrival. It's very likely that if you have questions about how to request immigration documents, such as your I-20 or your DS 2019, you will be able to find your answers here. We also have a new feature on our website where you can ask Tritons. That's usually in the bottom right-hand corner of our page, and you might be able to get immediate answers to your questions. I know that many students will even just use it as a search bar and say, hey, I have questions about housing, and they can actually go right to our housing website on our ISPO, our page on our ISPO website. So this is a great resource that I highly recommend you check out. And with that, I'll hand it over to my colleague, Stacey.
Thank you, Grace. Next slide, please, for us. Welcome to Housing, Dining, Hospitality for the upcoming 22-23 academic year. For our newly admitted international first year and transfer students, we've got two deadlines. For our first years, that first deadline is May 9th. It's coming very short. And our international transfer students, we will have June 9th. To secure the on-campus housing space, you do need to apply for housing, submit your application when it opens, and then after that, we will issue contracts, and those will be due in mid to end May for first-year students and mid to end June for transfer students. Once you have completed the contract and made the $450 prepayment, you can then provide a room preference, you can request roommates. We'll also be able to apply for our optional living learning communities that we've got at a few of our colleges here at UC San Diego, as well as iHouse, our international house that is at ERC. For more information, we've provided our URL with all of our deadlines, dates, rates for next year, and our dining plans as well. Next slide, please. We have listed on here, as well as our website, our current rates. Those are current for the 22-23 academic year, so you can see that now before you opt into housing by applying or doing a housing contract. Our first year incoming students will begin at the residence halls and the apartments in their college of registration, and then if needed, we will continue into other areas on campus. That could include another location like a college and or a different housing location like Pepper Canyon East, perhaps. Incoming transfer students will start at Pepper Canyon East and or Rita. They are all apartments, and then they potentially would go into other spaces on campus, especially if they're interested in one of the LLCs. All students will find out their room assignments in late August. We will post that information as we get closer to that so that students can be checking it frequently. And when you do the housing contract process, you will be able to select from your dining plan at that time. Once we do post the room assignments, students will always have the opportunity to change it if they want to with our stated dates. Next slide, please. This year, again, we are providing what would be called short-term transition housing. It will run June 17th through September 3rd this year. The format is mostly for this population. If there's an incoming first-year and transfer student who've accepted their offer admission to the university and they need transition housing as an exception, we will offer short-term housing with us. Our cost is roughly $51 a night for a single bedroom. We do have a double room rate coming. It's just not currently available at this point in time. This will all be in apartments and at 7th College, which is where we will have our short-term housing program. There's weekly custodial provided. Dining is not required. There won't be any programming as well, although if the college does programming this summer, you're more welcome to participate. The application will go up on May 16th, and you can get to that by going to our summer housing website and then looking at short-term. Next slide, please. If there are any questions, please reach out to us at the email that we have posted here, housinginfo@ucsd.edu, and a member of our team can reach out at any point in time. And if there's anything related to the application itself or the contract, please also reach out to us when you need it. Thank you.
Hello again, everyone. Let's put that camera on. Hello, hello. We are your basic needs off-campus housing department, and thank you to ISPO for inviting our office to share our resources. My name is Camille Kenga, pronouns she, her, hers, and I serve as the basic needs housing and educations coordinator over at the Hub.
And hi everyone, my name is Marisa Islas, pronouns she, hers. I am the Basic Needs Housing and Education Assistant at the Hub. I hope everyone is having a lovely Tuesday as well.
So today we'll be reviewing some general housing information and resources that are available to the entirety of our campus community. And we wish to honor the specific and additional barriers to access that international students typically have to navigate through. Thus, we will lean on our partners over at Hubs following our shareouts to give more intentional information.
And so remaining on this slide, what is the Off-Campus Housing Office? The Off-Campus Housing Office offers resources to aid students in their transition to off-campus living. A resource some of y'all may already be familiar with is the Off-Campus Housing website. Here you can access property listings or upload your own property listing, do a roommate search, seek platform recommendations, read up on first-time renting tips, lease overviews, emergency resources, and more. Once you enter offcampushousing.ucsd.edu into your search bar, you will see a layout like this one. This website is solely for UCSD affiliates, and you can log in with your UCSD PID if you are a student, faculty, or staff. If you are a property lister or someone without a user ID or PID, you will see an option on the right to log in as a guest. These login credentials assist in creating a safer platform. And when searching for housing, you can adjust your preferences by how much you are looking to spend, if you want a house or apartment, what specific location you want to reside in, and other specific requests. You can also find resources on how to review rental agreements and how to understand one's responsibilities as a tenant, both being fundamental parts of the housing search. And additionally, you can use the roommate search tool on this website, which provides students with the opportunity to search for potential roommates that also attend UCSD. Through this feature, students also have the option to create their own roommate profiles that include important information relating to preferences and roommate characteristics. Next slide, please.
ISPO hosts their own housing-related resource information on their website at iNewStudent.ucsd.edu. And on this page, you can find information for both on and off-campus living, as well as a comprehensive breakdown of common housing terms, avoiding scams, additional cost of living information, questions to ask your landlord or property manager, and more. Next slide, please.
Thank you. So to add, here are 3 additional housing resources that I highly recommend. First is the AS Housing Guide, which serves as an amazing off-campus housing guide for students with a visual breakdown of what a housing search should look like. Also, the Summer 2021 Off-Campus Housing Webinar, which is another great resource to use as a supplemental guide for off-campus living. And this webinar includes presentations from the Hub Basic Needs Center, us, and off-campus housing, Office of Ombuds, Student Legal Services, Transportation Services, Associated Students, and Student Life. Also, Student Legal Services allows students to access information regarding leasing and legal topics. I encourage anyone that is in need of legal counseling to schedule an appointment through their website. Next slide, please. And moving on to non-UCSD affiliated public search platforms. PadMapper is a public platform we like to recommend along with SpareRoom. PadMapper is a property search website and SpareRoom is a roommate search website. Also, the UCSD unofficial Facebook housing group is a community resource students use to find roommates in housing. Additionally, there are transitional housing options such as hostels, Airbnb rentals, and verbal rentals. And you can also search for Corporate Housing San Diego to find other transitional housing options geared towards traveling professionals. These apartments are short-term and often furnished. Next slide, please.
So diving into some housing search tips that have been curated by the typical concerns we hear from students. So when to begin? In general, the answer is going to be it depends. It depends on what type of lease you are looking for and when you are looking to sign the lease. However, when centering the trends in the housing market, if you are looking for a summer lease, then the time is between now and May. If you are looking for a fall lease, the time varies, but we suggest to begin looking no later than June. Since San Diego has a large college student community, you may also want to consider if properties are willing to hold a listing with a holding fee until you are ready to move in. Next, you want to start by building your list of needs versus wants and truly understand what are your non-negotiables when it comes to a listing. This list should include your budget, preferred locations, transit options, meaning how are you going to get to campus, potential roommates, and amenities. We also want to note that you should be strategic in regards to your affordability. So consider a month-to-month lease if your financials are a bit less stable versus a full year commitment. Additionally, a few tips when navigating your search include to request a virtual and/or in-person tour of the property. Be sure to not sign the lease or pay any deposits until you have been able to physically check it out. You never know if what you are seeing in photos or virtually is truly what the property has to offer you. And of course, ensure that the property aligns with your wants and your needs. With the housing crisis, it is easy to want to quickly find housing to ensure stability. However, there is so much value in ensuring that your holistic experience of living off campus is one that will help you at your time at UC San Diego. And a quick note, all of these tips and more are comprehensively shared through our educational campaign. Our educational campaign started in week 1 of the spring quarter and is continuing through week 6. And it gets a thorough breakdown of the housing search from where and when to start, negotiating your leases, to housing services in the area. And you can check it out either on our Instagram or TikTok pages at UCSD Basic Needs or our website at basicneeds.ucsd.edu. Next slide, please.
So getting into other housing resources, could you move on to the next slide as well? Thank you. So as y'all may expect, commuting comes with its own unique challenges. When I was an undergrad, I commuted for my first year, and what really helped me was looking out for any resources available. So if y'all are on Facebook, there is a commuters group that allows students to connect with other fellow commuters. There's also a commuter resources page on Trident Link with a list of helpful links. And you can also find resources for commuters on the off-campus housing website, such as information on the campus shuttles, parking, affordable grocery stores, and more. Next slide, please. And lastly, consider plenty of options and be wary of scams. If it seems too good to be true, it most likely is. So familiarize with yourself with your rights and responsibilities as a tenant. And again, if you need legal counseling, reach out to Student Legal Services. And please visit ISPO's isafety.ucsd.edu webpage for more information. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. Just to reiterate, my name is Russell, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of HUGS, which is Housing for Undergraduate and Graduate Students. So just for you guys to understand, because I'm an international student too, one of the biggest challenges you guys would face when you first come over to the US to find housing, if you don't manage to secure school housing, is actually securing a place for off-campus housing. And that requires like a credit score or either like a social security number, which you guys might not have at the start in the US. So what my company does is that we specifically get international students and domestic students housing without the need for a credit score. So essentially you guys can actually secure housing before coming over to the US. And if you guys are interested, you can either email me at like the contact down in the bottom right, which is housing@hugsintl.com, or you can just directly go to a website, search up the listings, and afterwards just apply. And you can just send me an email as well. Next slide. All right, so I want to talk to you guys specifically about like us as students, as UCSD students, what are the typical ways for international students to, or even like domestic students to find housing. So as reiterated by the amazing ISPO team, the first, there are two main Facebook groups, which is first of all, the UCSD Student Off-Campus Housing group, that's the unofficial one. The second one is also the UCSD Housing Sublet and Roommates, which is another unofficial group, but those two groups are where most of like the students or landlords would post. And last of all is my own personal company's Facebook group, where we post properties that are all international student friendly, and they're also all furnished with utilities included. So now I want to speak a little bit more about what is the main channel that students find off-campus housing, which is the Facebook groups. And there are a few good, like basically there are a few like practices that you guys should keep in mind when you're finding housing. As mentioned, a lot of the points that I have here on the screen are already covered by the ISPO team, but I'll just go in a little bit deeper. So just to explain about that, I just want to reiterate, please do not make payment without viewing the inside of the property, whether it's a live video tour or whether it's personal, because from the statistics of what I've been talking to a lot of international students, there are way more scams than they're actually legit posting. So that's something that you guys have to be aware of. If that's something that sounds too good to be true, always question that. Another thing I like to do is like, I like to look at the poster's profile. So I'll go over, I'll open up their profile and I'll look at their history, whether how many groups are they part of. If they're only part of housing groups and you see there's a bunch of spam, that's also a huge red flag for you guys to like take note. And one cool thing I like about like the Facebook groups is that even without a social security and credit score, there are certain housing situations that'll be more than happy to take you. And what I would say to maximize your chances of like avoid being scammed, like being together with the UCSD community, try to find postings that are either posted by landlords who have already rented out to students or current students looking to fill up like a single room, like subleasing. Those are kind of the safest bets because you can easily vet out their identity, whether it's through Facebook, LinkedIn, or like UCSD itself. Another thing that you guys might want to think of is that with Facebook, there is actually a opportunity for short-term leases, like month-to-month leases, because, and I'll get into this a bit later, because apartment complexes they usually require long-term leases. So that's just what I want to say in terms of like finding transitional housing or even finding like long-term housing. Both are available on Facebook, but apartments are specifically looking for like more long-term, unless you find a really good deal where they actually allow month-to-month. But from my personal experience, they won't allow a month-to-month if it's the first lease you sign, but only if you renew, they'll default that to a month-to-month. And just to reiterate, other methods used by UCSD students, apartments.com, Zillow, Craigslist, and like hotels, hostels, and Airbnb. But just for you guys to keep aware of, like apartments.com, they might require certain documents that only like if you've been here for like 6 months or a while and you got like the social security, and then apartments.com would probably be a good fit. So that's something that you guys might want to keep in mind. Next slide, please. All right, so I've gone ahead and compiled like a list of the most popular like apartment complexes in La Jolla with easy access to the school and somewhat reasonable prices too. So you guys I won't go through the list because like I want you guys to just take note of it, but specific ones that I would like to point out would be, let's say I'm currently staying at like La Jolla Crossroads. Obviously this is not Crossroads, I'm overseas right now, but Crossroads is a good option. Costa Verde Villages and Towers, although they might be a bit pricey, but any of these apartments over there in the list are very good options for you guys to like get your feet wet and get used to San Diego. Now I'll talk about like things to be aware of when renting apartment complexes, which are like longer leases. They're unfurnished without utilities. So what does that mean? That means that when you guys secure the keys to the apartment, you guys would still have to set up internet. So you guys have to get a box. You guys have to like either work together with the apartment complex. They usually have a dedicated provider, and you guys would need to set up the utilities under your name as well. So there's a bit more work involved when going through an apartment complex. You also do require renter's insurance, which all tenants should have. So that's something where the apartment complex can guide you on that process as well. One of the downsides about a apartment complex is, like I said earlier, which is the lack of social security or like credit score. And in turn, what does this mean for you internationals? It means that you would need to show like proof, like 2 or 3 times proof of income, or either you have a local cosigner, or what I've seen work is that if you have a bank account that has like the whole year's worth of rent or like half a year's worth of rent with a bit extra, that's where you can kind of show them that their bank account with a proof of letter if your parents are sponsoring you, and they'll accept that in place of a credit score or like a social security, but they might ask you for a higher deposit as well. And just one thing that I would like to really point out, which is like they do charge application fees as well. So you will get charged application fees. It's usually anywhere between $45 to $75. And another thing you guys might want to, this is good practice, where when you guys move into a new place, please take a picture, please take pictures of like how you receive that unit. Because when you guys move out, usually apartment complexes and landlords, they expect the same condition it's given to you to be handed back to them. Otherwise, you guys might get charged like a cleaning fee, which can be upwards of $250. All right, next slide, please. All right, and I'll pass it on to like friend from CORT.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Fran. I'm with CORT Furniture, and we provide furniture rental for students. We typically will deliver, we'll set it up, and we pick up the furniture when you no longer need it. You can rent our furniture for pretty much any lease term. So if you want to do a shorter term rental, or you can do rentals for over 12 months. The beauty of renting furniture is that there's no boxes left behind. We set up all the furniture. You don't have to worry about renting a U-Haul or storing furniture when you move out. We pretty much do everything for you. Our website is listed right on the flyer. It's cort.com /students. And we have a QR code which will take you directly to our website. What you'll do is in the right-hand top corner, you just click on San Diego. There's a drop down for how long you'd like to rent the furniture for. And you'll just need a delivery address and a date. And we pretty much take care of everything from there. So if you have any questions, we've got an 800 number right on our flyer, and please don't hesitate to reach out. We've got customer service people available, and we actually have interpreters as well. So if you need some assistance, we can definitely help you. Thanks again.
All right, thank you so much to our campus partners. I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can already start to get engaged and be a part of the Triton community here at UC San Diego. So right off the bat, something I'd love to highlight is our Global Ambassador Program. So our Global Ambassador Program is a peer mentorship program that happens over the summer. So you can apply right now to be a GAP mentee. And then as a GAP mentee, when you're filling out the application, you can say, what would you like out of the GAP experience and your GAP mentor? So some mentees really want to be matched with a mentor from their same home country. Some mentees really want to be matched with a mentor from their same college or who has their same major. But we typically will match all of our mentees and mentors in June, and then you have all summer to be able to ask those questions. When you're preparing for your life in the US and preparing for your life at UC San Diego, typically you have a lot of questions ranging from what to pack, how do I get from the airport to campus, as well as like what club should I join, how do I sign up for classes, things like that. And your mentor is really here for you every step of the way to help ease that transition. So you'll communicate virtually over the summer, then we'll host a GAP mixer in the fall for you to meet each other in person if you haven't already done so. It's one of the programs that often our students say was the biggest difference in easing their transition to UC San Diego. So you can go ahead and go to gap.ucsd.edu, and that will allow you to sign up for our Global Ambassador Program. And then so GAP happens over the summer, and then our international peer coaching program happens during your first academic year. So our international peer coaches are assigned to each college to support international first-year undergraduate students during their career at UC San Diego. So really similar to a GAP mentor, these are international students themselves who have gone through this process, and they're kind of here for you every step of the way. So whether it's so academic and like four-year planning resources, or if it's more like social, emotional support in terms of adjusting to a new culture. It's a big transition, but you have students as well as staff here in place to support you. So we highly encourage you to check out our international peer coaching program. You can see the website listed, also the email, as well as the Instagram. Okay, and then finally, we hope that you will start engaging with us on social. Our handle across all platforms is at ISPO.ucsd, and we like to have fun and start engaging with our students right away. So one of the ways we've done this is we've actually created a Instagram filter pack. So you can go to our Instagram and you can go to the filter section, and you'll see we have like 3 different filters celebrating that you are a new Triton and coming to UC San Diego. If you decide to play around with some of these filters, we hope that, and like post it to your story, we'll hope that you'll tag us, and we'd love to reshare and spread the love. All right, so a little sneak peek into some of the webinars that we have coming up. So on May 5th, we'll have a webinar on student health, insurance, and immunization requirements, and we'll have our partners from Student Health who will join us for that. On May 17th, we'll have a webinar about campus safety. On May 19th, finances and student accounts. And on May 24th, student life and getting involved on campus. And like I said previously, you can register for all upcoming webinars, as well as watch previous webinar recordings at iwebinars.ucsd.edu, and you'll click on webinars for newly admitted students. Okay, so things that you can start doing right now. So you can begin requesting your visa documents via iportal.ucsd.edu. We encourage students to start as soon as possible, typically with visa documents, as well as typically with housing. So begin that housing search. I know that a lot of students prefer to live on campus, and if that's something that you are interested as well, Stacy has shared a lot of really good information, and I believe that May 9th deadline is coming up quick. So I would just kind of keep that in mind and maybe make some moves, and so that you can kind of support your transition here. Like I said, we have those upcoming webinars, and then in September, we're so excited to welcome you with new international student orientation. If you're curious about that, you can always go to iorientation.ucsd.edu. Okay, so that includes our prepared slides for today's for today's webinar. And now we will transition into some open question and answer. So if you have any pressing questions, please feel free to submit that via the Q&A feature on your Zoom menu bar. We'll have it open for a few minutes, but I would encourage for any of our campus partners, if you could go ahead and put your contact information into the chat. So if for any reason our students don't get a chance to ask their question during this live portion, they can always follow up. Okay, so I do see one question in our Q&A feature. So the question reads, when can I expect to receive my I-20 once I apply for it? That's a great question. So if you go into iPortal and you'll log in with your student sign-on, you can see that there's an expected due date of when you can expect to receive that I-20 back. So typically we ask for 15 business days. That's because we are in the process of getting hundreds, upwards to thousands of requests from our new students. We're so excited to be able to support you, but it is a good amount of requests. So you can go ahead and you can see when that due date is. Again, you can expect to see 15 business days from the date that you requested it. And so I would say once it's on that due date or past that due date, you can go ahead and email our office, so iNewStudent.ucsd.edu, to check on the status of that request, but we do ask for 15 business days. If you're applying for it now, congratulations, you're in a really good position. You've given yourself a lot of good time to be able to get that I-20 or that DS 2019, and we're excited to get that for you. Yes, okay, so I see another good question. So this next question reads, do I need a physical copy of my I-20 mailed by the university, or will a printout electronic version of the form work for your visa process? So we have new guidance, whereas a electronic version of your I-20 is completely fine. That's been the standard process since the beginning of the pandemic, which has been great. And so for our F1 students, if you're studying here on an F1 student visa, an electronic version that you'll print and sign, make sure you sign it for your visa appointment, is completely fine, and it's now the new protocol. I will mention that if you are studying at UC San Diego on a J1 visa, which means you would have a DS 2019 instead of an I-20, that is still, those are run by two different government agencies, and for our J1 DS 2019s, those are still required to be a physical hard copy that will then be mailed. So just a quick note, but the majority of our students study here on an F1 visa needing an I-20, and that is completely fine to have an electronic version that you will then print and sign for your visa appointment and process. Okay, so we have this next question, and it's probably go to Stacy. So the question reads, is living on campus as a first-year student mandatory?
Thanks, Grace. No, living on campus is not a requirement for a first year, whether it be a first year freshman or an incoming transfer student. So it's a choice based on what you would like to do.
Yes. I will anecdotally note that many of our first year students choose to live on campus just because being on campus, our campus is a fairly large campus. So even if you live on campus, sometimes it can feel like you have to get to another part, and that can feel like you're commuting at that point. And I believe that, Stacy, this is my follow-up question that I'm just adding, is housing guaranteed for first year incoming students at UC San Diego?
So with the housing priority status that we've got posted on the website, they're in priority group 2. So we're addressing those with scholarships specific to UC San Diego. And then secondarily, we are wanting to house all the incoming students, which includes the first year freshmen and the incoming transfer students. We aren't using the word guaranteed, but the priority goes to the priority 1 group first, and then 2, which this group would be part of.
Thank you so much, Stacy. I know that that's a common question that our office, as I'm sure as many offices commonly receive from our incoming students. And to that, I will just note that as an incoming student, you have some of the highest priority. And so it might be worthwhile to take advantage of that priority status that you will have as an incoming student, as you may not have the same priority later in your academic career here at UC San Diego. So I know that that's something that a lot of our incoming students like to take advantage of, especially as they transition here to the US. Stacy, we have another question. So the question reads, I read somewhere that during the COVID-19 pandemic, the housing option was limited to single only. Is this still the case, or will there be any COVID-related policies in effect in the fall?
No, that's a great question. Campus continues to evolve our COVID-related policies on campus. So right now, we have single double occupancy, and this fall we will have triple occupancy. So we are going back to pre-COVID housing status at this point in time. I'm sure there will be some COVID-related policies effective this fall. It's too early at this point in time to share what those are as campus continues to look at it. Again, it's an evolving process. So we will always keep information posted on our website, as well as Return to Learn, which is a great location for people to go interested in what campus is doing or the current status at this point in time. But for fall, we will have limited single occupancy bedrooms as we do across campus, double rooms and triple rooms for fall.
Thank you, Stacy. And as a quick note, I went ahead and put the Return to Learn link in the chat. So if you're ever curious about evolutions that are happening with the pandemic, or how our campus and campus community is responding to different stages of the pandemic, what COVID policies might be in place on campus, everything related to that will be posted at returntolearn.ucsd.edu. So that's a great website just to have in mind, to share with potentially family members or things of that nature. And that will have, I know that website is updated constantly, so that's a great resource for our students. Okay, wonderful. So I believe that a lot of our colleagues' contact information has been entered into the chat, so you have ways of finding them, of getting in contact with them. I'd like to thank my colleagues for their time together today. Sorry, I'm just going to answer this quick question. Oh, we just had a flurry of different questions be submitted. So please feel free, if you have questions, now is the time before we wrap up. Stacy, we'll have this one go to you. The question reads, can we make a reservation on room type preference?
You cannot make a reservation. You will be able to provide a preference. We will do our best to take that into consideration, but as you can imagine, across campus, we have different layouts, room types available. And unfortunately, we will not to give everybody that wants a single room and vice versa. So you can put a preference, but there's no way to guarantee that room type. And then I see another question, what is the exact date of reporting to the campus for fall 2022? That is a great question. Grace can add in some additional PAs for housing. It is going to be dependent upon what our move-in dates are. We are still working with campus on that due to COVID-related policies, what that looks like. The housing contract for fall 2022 will start on September 17th. That is when the contract will be active. There will be some orientation, whether we know that's in person or virtual yet. We haven't received that information. There probably will be a couple additional early arrival move-in days available as well, but we would hope to be able to post that information as we get closer to the contracting phase at the end of May or by June 1, ideally. Grace, I don't know if there's additional information to share about that for an international student as well.
Definitely. So a quick update regarding orientation. So as undergraduate international students, there are two key orientations to be aware of. So that is going to be your college orientation as well as international orientation. Now for international orientation, our required sessions are going to be completely virtual. And that's because we know a lot of us students are traveling during September. And so we want to make sure that you have access and that you can complete all of that. So you're going to complete iTriton, which is our online orientation via Canvas over the summer, and then we'll have some required orientation sessions in September. Then we'll transition into welcome programming. So that will all be virtual. It will be mandatory, but it will be virtual, so you'll be able to complete it wherever you may be. The second orientation that you should really pay attention to is your college orientation. So depending on your college, there will be different ways that orientation is done, but you will be getting communication and information from your college regarding that orientation. So they'll provide you with a lot of information in terms of what pieces of that might be virtual, what pieces of that might be in person, and what pieces of that might be hybrid. And our colleges work really closely with HDH, Housing, Dining, and Hospitality, so that if you do need to move in early or things of that nature, we'll figure that process out. But again, I would stay tuned from information for your college regarding orientation and the specifics that might come along with that. All right, wonderful. Okay, so I believe we will pause here for today. But please do know you can contact our offices at any time. You have so many people here to support you as you begin your journey and throughout your journey at UC San Diego. So congratulations again on your acceptance and admittance into UC San Diego. We are so excited to welcome you as a Triton, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.